GM. GM. Today's Sunday, 19th of May. Quick daily levels and a quick trade of the day. It won't go in too deep on them because today we have a huge weekly outlook where I'll be deep diving on higher time frame bull and bear cases for Bitcoin. As you can imagine, sentiment's pretty much split down the middle, right? I'm sure you can feel that. A lot of people are bullish, a lot of people are bearish. And believe it or not, the data I'm going to show you today says the same thing. We've got real reasons to be concerned. We've got real reasons to be bullish. Very interesting market. It's going to set up some great trading opportunities in the weeks to come. So I was talking about this with one of my masterclass students last night. If you're looking at this breakdown area on BTC from back on the 13th of April, there was a sell-off on Friday, and then, so Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and then we had a consolidation sideways here. Right, we had this consolidation that was holding. I'll take it up to the body of the candle to show just where we reject from. Actually, in fact, I'll draw it across the full candle. You have a 12-hour bearish order block here that price broke down from on Saturday. That led us into our entire, 1 month of chop and tested it 3 times. Once we broke down, retested the order block, sold off. Second time we came up, took out the stops of that one, retested again, sold off. Third time we came up, retested it again, sold off, but immediately reclaimed and took out those highs at the red horizontal line for a fourth test. I don't believe this is a strong order block anymore. I don't believe that 67 to 68k is strong resistance. The more times you push into it and test it, the weaker it becomes. And I think that that's being shown right now. However, if it is going to be bearish, what I'd expect to see is a sell-off, right? Some weakness, and then an attempt to go higher again, which rejects, which would be 1, 2, 3, and even a fourth sweep. So that's one to watch. The time to get bearish on that is over here, if that happens, right? Until then, this is all bullish, and I think we go higher. I will break it down more on the weekly outlook, but in terms of Bitcoin for today, that's what I'm looking at. Trade of the day as well. I am going to actually line up a trade because it's Sunday. Sometimes we get good moves on a Sunday. I'll break down how I think we can get to 69 and when we get there and how we get there. So don't forget to check that one out. Right. Let's zoom back out a minute. Daily chart, Bitcoin. Bitcoin looks great. Sol also looks great. The two of those have been the strongest. Now they're pushing up into resistance, absolutely. But they're showing strength. There's no strong rejections. They're like Solana, for example, has impulsed out of this month-long consolidation. Right, so month-long consolidation, impulsed higher. Now 1, 2, 3 closes above it. About to close the week above it. That will be a strong weekly close if it holds. Bitcoin with a strong weekly as well. Others continue to lag. Ethereum trying its best to move, but sort of lagging, which is understandable. ETH ETF rejection coming this week, almost certainly. However, I do think that after 1, 2, 3 attempts to go lower on Ethereum, and now flipping back above the bands, depends how we go, going into the 23rd, which is Thursday. That's the approval or rejection day, 23rd. Wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum doesn't make a new low and is able to flip this, is able to flip those bands to green. The 3 touches were enough. The sellers have sold, and away we go. Ethereum ETF rejection is going to be front run. This is something I don't really see people talking about too much, and it's something that I'll be breaking down on weekly outlook as well, right? Just like the ETFs can get front ran, like Bitcoin, they can also get front ran like Ethereum. Meaning, what happened in January? Bitcoin ETF got approved. Do you think that people knew ahead of time? Of course they did. What did Bitcoin's price do? It absolutely mooned leading into it, right? up only for several months before the ETF. Ethereum has been down only since March. Okay? Leading into its own approval. So Bitcoin 2 months before, right? So March, April, May, basically 2 months for Ethereum. So let's go back 2 months from Bitcoin's approval. So that would be January, that would be December, that would be November. Let's go from November. Here's what Bitcoin did from November until January, the last 2 months before the ETF. Here's Ethereum in its 2 months pre-ETF. So what do you think is most likely to happen here? Do you think that Ethereum is selling off just because, oh, it's shit and it's weak and, you know, Bitcoin's down and blah, blah? Or do you think that Ethereum insiders know the rejection is coming? Of course. You'd be foolish to think that insider information doesn't exist. You'd be foolish to think that the smart people who apply for these, don't forget there's 8 or 9 different organizations applying for ETH ETFs, and they will know from the lack of communication with the SEC that they're going to get rejected. Because they also knew what was happening when they were going to get approved for Bitcoin. So that's actually, in a sense, bullish, right? Because it means, let's assume people knew ahead of time, they've dumped. They've had 2 months to get out. So they're out. So who's left to sell? Who's really waiting until the day of the rejection? There will be some. There's definitely some, but they're not going to be the smart money. Right? The smart money, true smart money, the insiders, they are already out. Remember, if you knew the ETF was going to be rejected because you had insider information, you would not wait until the day to dump. You'd be out here, you'd be out here, you'd be out at 4K, right? So that's a pretty bullish case in one sense for Ethereum bottoming out, because if the insiders have dumped, well, that's it. And we'll see at least a reactionary move. Now, that could actually be like Bitcoin's, except the inverse. Remember, the insiders were buying because they knew it was going to get approved. Then after the approval, there was a sell-off. And then the trend continued. So the inverse will be true for Ethereum. Sellers were selling because they knew it's going to get rejected. Then it happens and there's a bounce, not a dump, right? Bitcoin had a dump. This could have a reactionary bounce. And then the trend could continue. So from that one stream of logic, the ETH ETF, the Bitcoin ETF are completely inversed. One of them is an approval that got front ran. The other one's a rejection that gets front ran. So I expect Ethereum to go up, if for nothing else, only to just squeeze out the shorts who are still insistent on shorting into the event. But that could be just literally that, squeeze them out, maybe grab that liquidity up there, and then the trend continues lower. Because, and I'll cover this more on Weekly Outlook, but I don't think there's an ETH ETF till 2025, which I'll break down later on. So Bitcoin good, Solana good. One of the things you need to consider too is the Bitcoin and Solana strength, right? And I'm going to go deeper on this, but BTC and Sol's strength, is that just because of ETH insiders? It's not just because of ETH insiders, but how much of it is a factor. So you don't want to miss that part of Weekly Outlook for sure. And that's about it. I mean, the rest of it is just a weekend market, relatively quiet. Shitcoins, most of them red, a few of them green, nothing up or down massively. Bonk better than most. Bonk chart looking pretty decent there on the low time frames. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on. So that's all. The Weekly Outlook will drop afternoon. It won't be on the live stream because the live stream today is with Professor Ayush, stocks and crypto crossover. Absolutely fucking sick. Cannot wait for that. Do not miss that, because look where the stock market is. I have a lot of questions for Ayush. Is this a starting of a, is this beginning of a distribution? A Wyckoff type of distribution before it all ends? Is this the next leg of the bull market, where we just grind higher and higher and higher and the S&P goes towards 6,000? That's going to have big implications for crypto. for sure. All right, and that's it. GM, see you all later. 6 p.m. UTC for the stream. GM, GM, GM.